Recently, I decided to do some research into whether or not the Konpeki Plaza heist, or the heist to steal the relic as you could call it, was a setup, whether there was a higher power or a traitor or whatever else, right, that led to the failure of the heist as a whole. And while I could not find anything conclusive of that, what I did find was a lot of discussion over the years within the community on the validity of the heist itself. Let me just make something clear. The Konpeki Plaza heist is easily one of the messiest, most poorly thought out events I have ever seen in fictional media, and depending on your choices, could literally result in the death of everyone involved. It is no exaggeration to say that the heist was an unmitigated disaster. However, again, over the years, the community has debated on the validity of the plan. Everything to if it would have worked, to the competency of the people behind the mission, to even questioning whether or not the whole thing was this conspiracy from some master puppeteer to steer the events of the cyberpunk universe in their favor. Regardless of that speculation, that we'll partially cover later, one thing that I have seen that has emerged from the community, which a lot of people seem to agree with, is this line of thinking that the plan would have worked if insert any multitude of reasons or ideas for how the heist could have gone off that hitch. What if Jackie didn't die? What if T-Bug didn't die, etc., etc. The problem is, after doing a lot of thinking and researching, I don't think it would have mattered all that much. Not only because, well, from a storytelling perspective, the heist needs to happen to fail in order for the events of Cyberpunk 2077 to actually transpire, more than at the actual events that happened during the heist, the things that could have happened during it even, and of course the actual gritty details of it, keep the heist from ever being possible. Let's start with the plan itself. Now, some people think that the actual basic plan for stealing the relic is a good one, and that if certain events didn't transpire, or the mission's personnel even were different, or whatever, that the plan would have gone off without any problems. The problem is that this belief is wrong. The plan to steal the relic, at least how it's laid out in the game, is actually quite a bad plan if you think about it. And the biggest reason why this plan is just not very good is because it is reliant too much on luck. Let's lay out some basic details of the plan that you probably already know. Evelyn knows about the relic, and her knowledge that Yorinobu has sent away most of his elite security. She also knows that because of the Voodoo Boys and Yorinobu, that this relic is a vital piece of tech, with many people vying to get their hands on it. Because of that, she decides to betray Yorinobu and double-cross the Voodoo Boys and sell the relic directly to Netwatch, who were originally striking a deal with Yorinobu. Then she hires Dex for the job, who gets our gang together, and then through a series of events prepare to steal the relic from Konpeki Plaza. So, V and Jackie, disguised as arms dealers carrying a flathead, are to sneak into Konpeki Plaza, then use the flathead to take care of the hotel security, and after T-Bug breaks through the ice, take the elevator up to Yorinobu's penthouse, take the relic, and then exit wherever they came from and leave back for their rented domain, and then ride off into the sunset a lot richer and I guess, more famous in V and Jackie's case. And this is the sticking point for a lot of people, because technically the relic got out of the building and did in one way or another make it back to the Voodoo Boys, if that's the angle you're going for. Therefore, the plan actually worked and was, therefore a good plan. The problem is that I think this is just incorrect, because this goes off the assumption that Evelyn is still working for the Voodoo Boys, except she isn't. She also betrayed them. And also, the idea again only works if the only plan is to get the relic out of the building, which isn't the case. The plan isn't just for Konpeki Plaza, it's for the whole mission, and the whole mission failed. And the reason the mission failed is in part because the plan to steal the relic sucks. Let's talk about the incredible amount of luck required for this plan to go off without a hitch. Using Delamain is a huge mistake, because Delamain is a literal rogue corporate AI whose best interest is in its company and not in you. There's no guarantee that if things went wrong, that Delamain would have your back. And if Sabura was alive, I don't think Del would have been as secretive or just upfront with their information regarding the fact that they transported the people there. While the gang do have the security layout and details surrounding Yorinobu, they don't seem to have those details for the whole hotel, as evident by the fact that they almost got stopped at the door, and got incredibly lucky that the remaining security at the hotel after Yorinobu sent most of them away were either incompetent or too scared to actually get in the way of, the real corpos. If the security was actually good at their job, V and Jackie would have never been without an escort at the very least for a meaningful amount of time. So the fact that no employee ever decided that during the hours you're in the building to check on the people who brought a weapon to meet with one of their high-level executives is bonkers. The amount of evidence left behind by the gang in Konpeki Plaza is insane. While V does have Kuroshis to block their face, Jackie doesn't, and you know how a bunch of people are apparently scrolling BDs like all the time? So would all the dead and living employees in the hotel presumably would be too, right? More than that, think about all the DNA evidence that was left behind. You have to use your hand on the scanner. You can go to the bar and get food. You leave hair follicles wherever you go. And you know you're raw dogging everything in the building without wearing gloves, so you're leaving your fingerprints everywhere. Going off what I mentioned earlier, Delamain knows your real names, so having these false identities in the first place is meaningless because it's very easy for Arasaka to just ask for your real identities. Now, the reason this sort of stuff didn't come up in-game is because Yorinobu is heavily implied to have no interest in finding you. But if Saburo was alive, do you think that the Emperor would struggle to find people who showed their faces to everyone there, booked a room there, left DNA evidence everywhere at the scene, and, you know, rented a fucking Delamain? Hell, even out of favor Hanako finds you so easily, it's laughable. Do you think someone like Saburo would struggle? Because I don't. Luck aside, it wouldn't have mattered much anyway, because while the plan is reliant on luck, and that means it's not a great plan, the personnel executing the plan I don't think we're skilled enough to do so. Let's start with V and Jackie, which some people in the community do seem to have problems with, stating things like it's odd that such no names would be chosen for such a dangerous and highly skilled required mission. I disagree with this take because, well, for one thing, as we find out, V and Jackie are actually very skilled and highly capable, and are really the only reason the Relic leaves Konpeki Plaza in the first place. Also, while not as powerful as they would become, V is like one of the strongest characters of video game history, so I would say that someone like V would not be out of place in this heist. Also, if you look at it from Dex's perspective, these two are perfect. They're overeager, and most importantly, disposable, and it's exactly the job that you would need disposable talent, because you're dealing with Arasaka, especially if you're a man like Dex who says that they prefer the quiet life. V and Jackie are not the problem here, which leaves only T-Bug, whom I do not really have a defense for. While she is this claimed security expert, the fact that she is just not a good enough runner for this mission, and the fact that she does not do a good job at keeping track of the things going on in the hotel, and the fact that she takes forever to crack the ice, she just isn't good enough to do her job quickly and to multitask at the same time. The fact is that in a universe with people like Somi who are breaking the fabric of reality, surely there is someone in between her skill level and T-Bug's that could have been a better fit for this mission. But you know what? I don't think it's T-Bug's fault for accepting to go on this mission because, I mean, who wouldn't? It's Dex's fault for choosing her in the first place. It is a fixer's job to not only know the game, but to know their pieces and how to use them. And frankly, someone like the new Mr. Hands makes Dex look like a preschooler playing with checkers. Because if Dex was actually a good fixer, he would have found out the information to know that despite Konpeki being low on security, that someone of T-Bug's abilities still wouldn't cut it, and yet he chose her for this mission anyway. Speaking of lack of information, listen, would it be fair to say that Dex should have known that Saburo himself would come to Night City? No. Basically, no one was smart enough to predict that. But he should have known that the events were heating up around the city involving Arasaka. Not only did Arasaka send a carrier to the harbor, but Dex now has inside information that a key piece of Arasaka tech has been taken from them and is being held at Konpeki Plaza. It should not take a genius to figure out that shit is about to go down Osaka and to avoid any of the upcoming heat. Dex should have never taken this gig in the first place, especially if he actually believed in this quiet life. But Dex instead decides that it would be more reasonable to throw a nuclear bomb on a reactor meltdown. So why does Dex even accept this mission is an important question to ask for determining why exactly this heist was always doomed to fail, because something like this should have gone completely against his philosophy of the quiet life. If Dex was really living this quiet life, he should have done things completely differently with his life up to this point. The reason Dex accepted this mission was because he was not living the quiet life like he claims. He was in hiding. Something happened around 2-ish years ago involving Dex that was so bad it required him to pseudo-retire. He did not go out of the game on his terms, and because of that, he is desperate to re-enter the game, and he ignores all the warning signs in his way. Warning signs like some random lady coming up to you one day about how she has intimate knowledge about a piece of highly sought after tech that is only in possession of the heir to the Arasaka Empire, and then doing like 0 background checks on her, like at all to vet and see if this mission is as it appears to be. But Dex doesn't do that, nor does he really do the other aspects of his job well at all, because he is just like V, Jackie, T-Bug, and Evelyn, is that he is desperate. They need this mission to be a big win, to propel them to the lives that they dream of, and because of that, the red flags don't just become green flags, a lot of them just don't even exist anymore. It's why he picks someone like T-Bug, because he has a previous history of her and trusts her, and because most likely the runners with the skill required for this mission don't trust him and don't want to work with him because of his previous outings. This is also probably why he chose V and Jackie in the first place, because while they do suit his needs, they are frankly just starstruck newbies, and that's why he set Evelyn's obvious load of bullshit. It's because everyone involved with this mission, including him, have stars in their eye and ignore all the potential consequences that come from stealing this piece of tech. However, even if Dex was some giga-brained, all-seeing individual and the people in the heist were the most elite solos money could buy, the plan still would have failed, because the relic itself is basically cursed. Now, the reason why it wouldn't have mattered if we had this sort of perfect team and this perfect plan, because there's this one line in the diary or the data bank from Saburo that you can get at the top of the building during the heist mission, which says that, quote, maybe it would be better to bury it among the ashes of Insi, which is in reference to if the relic would escape from the hands of Arasaka and end up into the hands of someone else, which very heavily obviously alludes to the fact that Saburo probably would have used nuclear weapons or just destroyed the city in some other way. Seriously, Saburo was ready to destroy Night City off the map. It's why I say this whole thing is cursed, because this clash that we see in game between Yorinobu and Saburo was always going to happen, but because the relic is involved, we now have this extra layer. And that extra layer is that now, instead of this just being a conflict between father and son, it is now elevated to that next level where the decisions of both of these individuals is going to lead to massive consequences for millions of people. There are really only two paths that could have realistically come out of this with the relic involved, and that is either the thing that we see in game, or it is the nuclear holocaust of everyone in Night City. Now, people may argue about what if or whatever else, because what if, Saburo just changed his mind, or, all this sort of stuff. But the fact is that in a good written story, characters, while they can be irrational, they are consistent in what they do. Saburo Arasaka is a very wrathful man. He does not take failure kindly. He does not take being slighted against, easily. Because of that, this would have probably set him off to a new level of anger that we probably haven't seen in the story before. At the very least, we haven't seen in a long time. And Yorinobu, on the other hand, as we can tell, is very impulsive. He does things that he believes is right, but he doesn't really go about it in a smart or a rational way. And because of that, he steals the relic off a whim, basically. And that's why this extra layer is important for understanding, because now the conflict isn't just who controls Arasaka, it's now who controls immortality in Saburo's eyes. And now Yorinobu has to, in his mind, stop his father's evil machinations from coming to fruition. This conflict was always going to happen, I think, between father and son. They just have two very different, viewpoints of the world and how each of them should interact with it. But more than that, this is why I think that this relic is basically cursed, because if you are a third party, obviously you can't predict when these two are going to interact, but if you get unlucky enough, like V and Jackie did and the rest of the gang, that inevitable conflict will occur on the night you are actually stealing the relic. And even if it didn't, we know Saburo wants nothing more than this technology to be in his hands only. So the consequences, if it leaked or if anything else happened, would be dire. So this is partially why the heist was always doomed to fail, because these two, father and son, were always destined, with this relic involved, to come to a head of some sort. And this is why I sort of don't like what ifs surrounding the Konpeki Plaza heist, especially surrounding the relic itself, because what if in this scenario can't just be, what if T-Bug is faster, or what if, something else, because there is this sticking point, this inevitable conflict happening, which means that it wouldn't have mattered if T-Bug was faster, or if, V and Jackie had telepathy or something, because Yorinobu was always going to kill his father in this instance. Or if Yorinobu didn't kill his father and the relic was stolen anyway, it would have led to the destruction of Night City. The heist was kind of always doomed to fail, at the very least because of this conflict between father and son. So to do what ifs and to do all this sort of theorizing around this, I think, is kind of pointless, but more than that, it just isn't the story that we have, and it borders on the line more of fan fiction, which is fine, But again, it's not the story that we have. However, there is one last what if you will indulge me. And that is something that I mentioned in the beginning, which was what I originally was researching about, which is, what if the heist was a setup? Now, some people think that because of the way the dominoes fell, that somehow the events and the actions that occurred during the heist are because of some wider, grander conspiracy instead of just incompetence and bad luck. Listening to and creating, theories, especially for something as harmless like video games, is fun. They're what make video game universes so unique. I mean, that's basically the point of my last video. Problem is, in this case, is that there really isn't enough evidence to point to one conclusive theory. And listen, I'm no stranger to have baked ideas. I mean, see my last video again. But because there isn't enough evidence, I think, surrounding most of the theories, it borders again more along the lines of fan fiction rather than actual concrete fact. Which is really highlighted by the fact that nobody who I've seen talk about or discuss if the heist was a setup can seemingly get behind one solid idea. There is a lot of evidence that we see in game, too much for me to put in this video, that points to some wider thing going on behind screen. That'll point to this heist being not what it seems. However, while there is a lot of evidence for something more going on, none of that points to a singular person or group being behind the heist. And I mean, I've seen everything from Yorinobu, Kojima, Rogue AI, hell at this point T-Bug is like a secret traitor working for like 10 different factions. People can't make up their mind around her. People will point out that, oh, because they were using a Militech flathead and they were in Militech suits, therefore Militech set it up. But because the bartender is this like cryptic guy and has different dialogue depending on choices for your life path, that therefore he is secretly an AI. And there's so much. And all of these theories run into the same wall, which, while they are cool to think about, they just don't have enough evidence to them. Well, all except one. So, two things. One, I did not create this theory myself. I took it from Reddit. Specifically, this is from Reddit user flawed. Second, I am not necessarily a big believer in this theory. Also, while I did say this theory has more evidence for it, really I should have just said it has some pretty strong circumstantial evidence for it, so that's why I'm putting this in this video in the first place. So, according to Reddit user flawed, they noticed that the emails between Yorinobu and Netwatch was actually a mistranslation between Polish and English. The English version of the email from Netwatch to Yorinobu goes like this. Following up on our last conversation, we are still very much interested in cooperating. For our agreement to succeed, we only require a sample biochip with a valid engram. The only question is, why must it be Johnny Silverhands? However, according to them, the Polish version goes something like this. Following up on our last conversation, we are still very much interested in cooperating. For our agreement to succeed, we need to receive a copy of this technology with a specific engram. Johnny Silverhand must be on that biochip. There is only one question left. Why? If this email is true, and this translation is actually an inaccurate translation from Polish to English, this means that Netwatch essentially set a trap for the Voodoo Boys by basically hiring Yorinobu or finding out that Yorinobu stole the relic and essentially pretending to have interest in buying the relic from him and leaking this information down to the Voodoo Boys in order to hope that the Voodoo Boys would take the trap, because as we know, the Voodoo Boys are trying to break through the Black Wall and Netwatch doesn't want that to happen. This theory would explain some things like why Netwatch is doing this kind of weird double deal with both Evelyn and Yorinobu, and why again after the events of the heist, Netwatch is seemingly again doing this very desperate move with the animals and the GIM, because they can't afford for Arasaka at this point to find out about their involvement with the heist, because while the Voodoo Boys took the bait, they were smart about it by sending a proxy in the form of Evelyn to take the fall for them. However, unfortunately for the Voodoo Boys, Evelyn is not completely stupid and recognizes that this relic has some value, and when Netwatch discovers this, they now have to make a deal to ensure that the relic 100% does not fall into the wrong hands. So they strike a deal with Evelyn to make sure the Voodoo Boys are in a lose-lose situation. Of course, that's not exactly how that went down. Yorinobu kills his dad, forcing Netwatch to clean house, so to speak, and scrub any possibility of their involvement. And obviously, even if the plan had worked with Saburo still alive, he, well, would have nuked Night City anyway. So the reason I bring this up as the final piece of this video is, for one thing, while I don't fully believe in this theory, it does make some sense. At least it makes more sense than like a rogue AI taking over Yorinobu's mind to make him kill his dad, or like Jackie is secretly an AI cyborg or something. It fits within the story that we have without really changing much of anything or making the story something that it isn't. But the other reason is because it goes back directly into what I've been saying this entire video. Because even if you don't think it matters that the mission's personnel is not skilled enough, or the plan sucked, or you don't care about the horrible inevitable clash that was about to happen, because you believe in the end there is some wider conspiracy going on, if you believe that the plan couldn't have just failed due to incompetence or bad luck, then really the only sort of conspiracy that makes sense is something like this, which is a conspiracy that sets in motion a plan to set someone up to tangle with Arasaka and mess with something that would bring the full might of the Corp down on those foolish enough to fuck with them. And really you could put any group, if this is the angle you're going for. It doesn't necessarily have to be Netwatch. It could be a rogue AI manipulating things to cause a corporate war, or even Militech to gain the upper hand over Arasaka, or really whatever else you want to put in there. Regardless, the result is the same. The heist was always supposed to be this catalyst that some group foolish enough to try a heist would be foolish enough to set off. It was supposed to be the bait to string a trap that would set off a series of events that would cause chaos, at the very least for whomever was dumb enough to attempting to fuck with Arasaka. The result is the same. The heist was always meant to fail, and from its foundations, its very foundations, the idea to steal the relic was never meant to succeed. This is, of course, if you believe there is some conspiracy behind it all. If not, well, the plan is still over-reliant on luck, T-Bug still isn't good enough, all the warning signs are ignored by Dex, and Subaru and Yorinobu were inevitably going to clash over the relic. Again, frankly, sometimes the luck just doesn't go your way, but hey, at least Night City didn't get nuked again, so silver linings, I guess. Anyway, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time.